Doesn't matter preseason, postseason, post-spring, into the dead period, whatever it is. We're talking Miami football here each and every week. We do so with a wholesome one, and I can't wait to get to this. Again, we finished spring practice, but still, man, I got a lot of questions for this guy, and I know you will as well. So jump on into the live chat. Leave your comments, your questions, your debate topics, and the wholesome one will have an answer for you. And I may actually even have something to say depending on the topic. Wholesome one, how are we doing today?
We're doing well. We're taking it one day at a time, and things in the world are pretty happy right now.
Good stuff. So let's get started with, I did notice here, don't hold this one against me. I do this Wednesday night show at 6 o'clock Eastern time. It's another part of the state of Florida. They're in the ACC. I talk to these guys. We talk up a little football and just different, shade of red, garnet, they call it. And anyway, they lost a commit this week that they were pretty happy about originally. 11th rated defensive end in the country, Nigel Kelly out of Fort Lauderdale. Didn't know if you had a chance to really look at his tape, know much about him, but he is definitely leaning toward the U based on what I hear.
It's funny because you had a show with these people, and they spoke about bringing a swag back. And know thy enemy is very important. You keep tabs on a lot of folks. So I don't watch the live, but you put a title up that says somebody get the swag back. This is when they had momentum in recruiting. And man, it's eerily similar to when we had Al Folden and we had all these recruits committing to Miami, and then they actually started going on visits everywhere else, and all these other important things happen, and then it falls apart. And they all decommit from Miami, go sign to these other schools, and have a really good career. So now they know how that feels. All right. So the edge rusher that decommitted from them, a lot of us Miami Hurricanes fans, we weren't worried about it because at the end of the day, their program is in shambles. Now, I don't really think a defensive end can turn an entire program around. So if I'm as talented as this young man, and one institution, I'll give you a viewpoint here, Mark. They haven't had a DN drafted since 2018 with Brian Burns, who went first round to the Panthers. Miami has had almost 6 drafted since then. And they're going to have 2 first-rounders this year, albeit transfers, or 2 of them were transfers. I understand that. But Miami is the place to be in the state, excluding the Gators. I still think Florida has the edge on us with defensive line production as far as any SEC production translated to the NFL. Miami's doing well to get back in that conversation. But as far as a true defensive end edge rusher, if you want to stay home and play ball in Florida, Miami's the place if you want to go be a big-time defensive end. It's just that simple. So I was happy. Decision respected for sure. I don't know if this turns into a Miami commit, but at the end of the day, we're going to continue to rush the passer from the defensive end position that we do. And it looks like this young man really likes what Miami's bringing to the table as far as getting to the quarterback from that position. It's just that simple.
The composite has him at number 215 in the nation, 11th rated defensive end, but and 24th in Florida. But 247 in particular really loves him because they've got him much higher up the board at number 101. And you will know, isn't that better than most of us, top 100 in the nation. He's got some talent.
Listen, Mark, when you look at, I believe this young man is like 6'4". Isn't Kelly like 6'4", 6'5", somewhere there?
Yeah.
Okay. When you're that big and you're not a power rusher, that's huge. Because, Mark, there's so many young men who are that size. when they get to the next level, we got to teach them how to work moves. Because for the longest, they just get off the ball, they long arm this dude, and they can't hang with him, But that's why it's so good when they come from schools like a St. Thomas, schools like a IMG, schools like an American Heritage, where they're getting this higher level coaching. Because now you get a young man who is 6'4", 6'5", but has moves like he's 6'1", 6'2", and can still get to the QB. And it's obviously a lot better in that instance when they're that size and they can get to the quarterback. Number 2 reason why I'm here, Mark. Look at who our defensive line coach is. Okay, Coach Jess Simpson, who was one of the 32 defensive line coaches at the National Football League level. Not like, he was an assistant D-line coach, and he was just there, and he took pictures. And he's not Mark Richt's son, who had a cup of coffee with the Buffalo Bills, sitting in meetings and took pictures and watched film and broke it down for the true QB coach. No. Jess Simpson was the Falcons defensive line coach for 2 seasons. And the only reason why he wasn't retained is because that whole staff got fired. He's our assistant head coach and our defensive line coach. He's also helping in recruiting of the offensive line and linebackers. So expect 3 positions to make a huge jump over the next 2 recruiting classes as to what's being brought to the table with an NFL mind helping out on the offensive line, him being the head recruiter of defensive line and helping out with linebacker. All right, so there'll be a big jump there. So the recruiting at D-line, I think, is going to shoot up the roof here. And wow, Rob Favard made a great point. Can you put that comment up there for me, Mark? Oh, wait, you have a I'll read it up. You got a donation.
Yeah.
So he said Larry Johnson is still the best defensive line coach in America. 1,000%. Remember when people would come on and say that Miami had the best defensive line coach in Coach Kuligowski? And I was just like, he's top 3 or top 4, but Coach Larry Johnson was at Penn State, turning 2- and 3-star nobodies into college football Hall of Famers, bro, at the defensive line position. At Penn State for 15 years, moves over to Ohio State and the Bosa brothers, of course. But then you also have Chase Young. You also have the young man Spencer, who is a freshman now, who is going to be a problem. Those are just the names that everybody else knows. There's guys like, is it Dante Jones, defensive tackle? Big dude, a couple of seasons ago. Went like 2nd round to
Draymond Jones.
Draymond Jones. I wish we had a couple of those guys, Mark. 6'5", 320, and moving, he really did very well up in the fronts. But our resume is going to speak for itself when it comes to defensive line. Okay. Number 2, you got one of the best defensive line coaches. Based simply off the fact that this man was a pro defensive line coach. Okay, coming back to college. And he wants to help recruiting across the board. So I think it's a match made in heaven. We'll see what happens.
So he was there with the Falcons for 2 years. So would that have been 2019-20?
Yes.
Okay.
Because after the 2018 season, because remember we lost Kuligowski in 2018, early 2018 to Alabama. He coached that one season. That's when we had the Gerald Willis, the John Garvin, and the Joe Jackson show up when Miami led college football in TFLs with those 3 young men. We also had, Pat Bethune and John Ford, who were part of that defensive line. Tito Ugobigo, who were part of that, but they didn't really do much. But between those 3, we had really big-time production on the defensive line. So there was a conversation of Miami having the best defensive line in college football based on statistics, sacks, and TFLs. He was our defensive line coach. Then he gets to the NFL defensive line coach, and we replaced him with the coach we had, Todd Stroud, who is just,
I was just curious as to whether he was with the Falcons when they went to the Super Bowl.
No.
All right, we got Shane with the Super Chat here. We appreciate Shane with a Super Chat contribution and a question before that I'll get to the screen here in just a second. Support the vision. Thank you so much, Shane, and hard work with a like and a subscribe and notification, y'all. Great content provider, well-educated, hardworking. Go Canes. Beat Bama. And Shane also comes in with this question. And at this point, this is before we jumped on the air, didn't know who necessarily was going to be the analyst, but says, hey, Mark, don't know which Miami YouTuber you're going to have on, but questions, number one, season predictions. Okay, Shane, we'll always answer your super chat and your questions and so forth, but that's a little bit jumping the gun for me, at least. Number two, defensive outlook, personnel, schemes, coaching, etc. heading into the season. A lot to take on there.
I love this. All right, let's get it. Okay, first part of your question here. I have in my belief that Miami is anywhere between a 9-4, because I'm including us going to the ACC championship game in this.
Okay.
So I have us as either a 9-4 or 10-3 type of team. Okay. That's where I have. Phil B, go somewhere else. We don't care about you and your team. Your live was last night. Continue the rest of your day on someone else's live. Thank you. Anyway, that's where I had this Miami Hurricanes team until proven otherwise. I was more of a 8-5 kind of guy, Mark, which I didn't even think 8 wins was going to get us. So I was really 8-4 in my opinion. But after watching the spring game and understanding here, Mark, we had 16 starters out. If anybody else watches college football, other spring games, some of your better players and having injuries is just what happens. So there's still no excuse to have a sloppy spring game, right? I watched Georgia. They didn't even have a running back in the game. Guys are hurt and that's all type of crazy crap happening with that, right? It's number one. Number two, Alabama had almost 20 guys out. So all of James fans, well, Bama doesn't look that good. Listen, man, there's still going to be Alabama, of course. I'm not running from nobody. We're going to line up and we're going to play football. At the end of the day, you still have to line up, and the game is scheduled. You're going to get on a plane. Tickets have already been bought. Your uniform are going to be made, and you're going to show up and play the freaking football game. It's just that simple. I'm not scared of nobody, but you have to understand that we're going up against the best program in college football. That's just that simple. Simple. Okay? But all these people had guys out. Their game still looked a little iffy. Turn on the Miami game. In the one position we seem to have right with our two backups is quarterback. The offensive line looked pretty well. First and second team. Now, if you're comparing that to Alabama's offensive line who had to go up against the elite defensive line, that's your discretion if you really want to have that type of conversation and cross-examine where the programs are on two different levels right now. Here's us, here's them. Okay, there's a pretty big gap in between where we are. But still, I appreciated every single thing I watched in that game, Mark. It showed me that Miami is starting to build a true program. All those things I asked you about, a well-oiled machine, I didn't really necessarily see it, but I saw something close. I wanted to see the offensive line work as a unit, Mark. I got that checked off too. I wanted to see the wide receivers show us something. They did. Two guys showed us they still are who they are, but they can still make plays. And that we've over-recruited them. So if they don't work out, you know what? Here's a place right on the bench for us. We'll see you when we get to 3rd and long. Okay? So I say all of that to say this season is very important. I saw a lot that makes me excited for what we're going to do. You cannot allow that first game to determine the rest of your season, win or draw or loss. That's it. And there's no draws in college football. So win or lose. We'll be there to midnight. Listen, go back to Texas A&M, LSU a couple years ago, 80-something to 70-something. They'll put the ball on it gets to the point when you get to like 8th or 9th overtime, they'll put the ball at the 2 and everybody gets one down. Okay, it gets big time once you get further and further into overtime, all right? You cannot allow that to ruin or even make it over overestimate yourself to. Here's why I say that, Mark. Let's say, for example, Miami wins a close game, 34-31, right? We're jumping up and down. We're running down the field. We going nuts. We go on this 4-game win streak after that. We go to our bye week, and we're at Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and they beat us by 10. Because we've gotten to the point where we start smelling ourselves again. All right? Or Miami loses to Alabama. Miami wins against Coastal, Cincy, whatever they got going on, and we're going to play after that. And then Miami goes and loses by a late field goal to Michigan State because they're still down in the dumpster from losing to Alabama. Right? You cannot allow that game to make or break your season either way. It's just that simple. And being able to show up and play 4 whole quarters at a high level, they have to be you go to OT, but to be able to play at a high level, Mark, and we'll get into that question later on you got for me and answer why I say that about first, second halves for this Miami Hurricanes team. Okay. So that's my whole schedule outlook. Anywhere from 9-4, 10-3, somewhere in there, including the championship game. I'm not including the bowl game because I don't know where we would go from there. Right. Then the second half of the question was to go down the entire defense, correct?
Yeah, there was a lot there about defensive personnel, schemes, and coaching.
Sure, no problem. So the defensive personnel, I'll start off at the defensive line. I'll work my way back to the secondary, and we'll get into each of their coaches, and we'll talk about them, all right? So I've already gone into Coach Jess Simpson, our assistant head coach and our defensive line coach, former NFL defensive line coach for the Atlanta Falcons of the last 2 seasons for just strictly working on defensive line. Miami is returning Nesta Silvera. Miami's also returning John Ford as returners on the defensive line. We're losing Quincy Roche, a 3rd or 4th round pick at defensive end. We're also losing Jalen Phillips, a 1st round edge rusher, to replace them based on numbers, not necessarily production just yet, but to replace them, we're bringing 53 from middle linebacker to defensive end, and Jafari, found out that's how you're supposed to pronounce his name, Jafari Harvey on the weak side defensive end, number 12 for the Miami Hurricanes. Now, Jafari has not produced, but his snap count has been pretty low. He hasn't had a chance to have this big breakout season, jump off the screen to us, because he had maybe 18, 20 snaps per game from last season. So the question mark around him is he going to give us something eerily similar to what we've seen? We kind of been spoiled with defensive line production over the last couple of seasons, whether you go all the way back to 2017 up until present day. Been kind of spoiled for like 4 seasons when it comes to defensive line play, with each and every starter on that defensive line being drafted. That hasn't happened here in a while. Whether even rotational guys like Trent Harris is still on the active NFL roster right now for the Patriots rushing the passes. So, and he was undrafted. So we had him coming off with 8.5 sacks in 2017 as just a 3rd down situational pass rush. I expect there to be a little bit of a step back on defensive line, which is going to put a lot more pressure on our secondary and even more pressure on the linebacking core, which is a huge question mark as to what they're going to bring to the table. Moving back to our linebackers, they're going to be coached by Coach Jonathan Packey, who has been our strikers and special teams coach. You're going to have B.J. Jennings, Sam Brooks, Wayman Steed, Keontra Smith. I think those are the only people really worth bringing up at this point. So that's the 2 deep, that middle and outside linebacker. Now, Keontra Smith is somebody who was a striker. He's moved to weak side linebacker, and he was the best linebacker on our field for us in the spring game. So that should already tell you what was happening right there. Okay, move over to striker. They're going to be coached by Coach Ishmael, the transfer. I'm so used to saying transfer. Coach Ishmael came over from Texas A&M, who was head of recruiting not head of recruiting. He was assistant recruiting and assistant linebackers coach. Now he's coming here as a first-time on-field coach for the University of Miami with Gilbert Frierson, to me, arguably our best defensive player based on how he played last season. He's going to be backed up and splitting reps with Amari Carter, somebody who I've spoken about for the longest should be moved closer to the LOS. so that he could make plays on the ball instantly instead of being way back there. 6'2", 215. You probably should be playing safety. It's just that simple, especially if you're lacking in coverage, you're lacking in the speed required in a too high system. Doesn't really make much sense to me. You also have Chase Smith, number 41, a 6'4", 200-pound freshman already. If you go to our recruiting rankings, he was listed as an athlete because if you watch his film, he played wide receiver, tight end, linebacker, safety, corner, punt, kick return. He's moving just to striker. So expect there to be a really big jump in the athleticism and him fighting for snaps there. Let's move on to corners. You have DVD, former Miami Hurricane here, DeMarcus Van Dyke, who is their coach. He also was here, head of recruiting for wide receivers and defensive backs for the last couple of seasons. Now moved to an on-field position. He swapped places with Coach Mike Rumph, who moved over to recruiting, 100% to recruiting, all right? So you got that going on at cornerback. I'm excited about it because as I watched the film, I saw a lot of those little things, man. A lot of those little things that I hadn't seen here in a while. Look, locate, turn around, and attacking that freaking football, Mark. It seems so simple. And it's just like, how do we allow Efren Bandit and Coach Mike Rumph or whoever was to blame for what was happening, how do we allow that to continue to go on for as long as it did? How do we continue to allow these excuses to infiltrate our program and we just let it roll because we were still looking good on defense? Okay, one of the things I hate is the statement of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think that is one of the most simple-minded statements ever. Because just because something isn't broken doesn't mean it can't be upgraded. I mean, I could have an iPhone 6 right here in my hand, Mark. That's actually a 10. But I can have a 6. It still works. I still answer the phone. It's not broken. So I'm just hanging on to this as long as possible. Why? When I can go to Verizon and get an updated phone for free. And it'll make my experience easier. It'll make my experience better using that phone. It just doesn't make any sense. So that's what's going on when it comes to the cornerback production. Now, let's get to our players. Tyreek Stevenson, transfer from Georgia, comes down. And all our fan base, Mark, had everything in the world to say. Every time I watch a highlight tape, Tyreek Stevenson is getting bombed. Like they're going to put him breaking up a pass on a highlight tape to excite the fan base. Really? So we get to the spring game, right? And this man I think he gave up maybe an under route for a couple yards, and then they stopped throwing his way. This doesn't make any sense to me, Mark. But hey, that's what happens when we have the society we do now, where something flashes in your face, you got to react as opposed to looking deeper into the situation and letting things unfold before we throw out our opinion. It's that simple with that. With Tyreek Stevenson. Now, DJ Ivy had an undisclosed injury. So when Avonte Williams comes in for a tackle, Jalen Knight, and he eludes the tackle, and he runs right into the knee of DJ Ivy. So that's what happened. We don't know if it's, hopefully it's not an ACL or MCL or anything like that, but he was injured and he stayed out for the rest of the spring game from that knee injury. And then when it came to the report and the post-presser, Coach Manny Diaz didn't speak on there being any injury. So maybe they just held him out after that. It was just looked like his knee kind of buckled and they just held him out for a little bit after that. But DJ Ivy almost gave up a deep bomb to D. Wiggs. We all know that he still gives up. His speed is not all of that. We have very young at safety with Bubba Bolden being out. Gervin Hall had one heck of a spring game. And Avonte, we'll get to safeties here soon. But there was still a little bit of miscommunication. D. Wiggs pops open for a deep route. They both go down to the ground. And as they hit the ground, the ball pops out. DBs hop up and celebrate with anything. I still was a little disappointed because how the heck do we let this dude get behind our safety and our corner? Got to make sure we have a lot better communication on that in the back end. Behind them, Corey Couch was out. Marcus Clark was out. So Jalen Harold 6'4", 200-pound dude. Man, Mark, I didn't even know they made DBs that big. This dude is huge, man. And it makes me happy because when I turn on the film and I watch our players, I'm not saying we're Ohio State. I'm not saying we're Clemson. I'm not saying we're Bama. I mean, heck, we're not even UNC until proven otherwise. But it's starting to look like we're getting those type of physiques. Our players are starting to look good as opposed to not. It's as opposed to us looking like anomalies and all we care about is speed and our dudes are just little and they can't bang. They can't get in there because they don't have the right SEC or NFL type physiques, modern day bodies. And we're starting to see that at the University of Miami. Lastly, safety with Coach T-Rob, former coach, defensive back coach at Florida back in the heyday. He's produced multiple first rounders in Hargraves. He also had Tease Tabor. He also had the South Carolina corners, Horn, who's getting a lot of first round conversation. He was his recruiter and coach through the whole process at South Carolina, former defensive coordinator. I mean, just a lot going into Coach T-Rob. And he comes here as just DBs. He's not co-DC. He is an assistant head coach. He's defensive backs. Okay, now, yes, he's safeties, but him and DVD are working together with both the corners and the safety. We also have been having some cross training going on there too, Mark. Got a little Bubba Bold in that corner every now and again, just teaching them, Gerber Hall at corner, teaching the methods of covering and man coverage and stuff like that was not happening under the previous coaching staff with Coach Rumph and Coach Ephraim Band. It's just that simple. Let's get into our players at the end of the safety level. Avonte Williams, #1 safety in the country, 2 recruiting classes go, was out that first year. A lot of people thought he would never play it down here at the University of Miami. I was even guilty of kind of falling deep down, like, you know what, he may never play here. Not only did he get cleared, but he stayed mentally prepared. He stayed focused. He stayed in shape, and he stands out, Mark. He just looks like something that hasn't been on our field in a while, and he showed up a lot. Yes, he did have that missed tackle where he whiffed an open field on Jalen Knighton, but man, what heck of a player! What a leader! What a great energy you want on the field playing football with you. Next to him, you had Gervin Hall, number 26. A lot of people are very saddened on him and soured on him because he wears the number 26 at Miami, and he's not Sean Taylor. All right? Who is? Whoever will be. Nobody. It's just that simple. That it just doesn't make any sense to me that now he must be a trash player because he's not Sean Taylor. And in my opinion, Mark, that number should have been retired a long time ago. This guy was murdered. It's not like he just passed away in his sleep. He was murdered. It's a tragedy. Give him his respects. Retire the number. Hang it in the Raptors. Let's leave it at that. It's that simple. When it comes to that number 26, all right? Behind them, you had a little bit of Keontre Smith playing a little safety. Brian Balaam, I think he was he injured? I want to say, I thought I saw 27 make some plays out there. So he was there, but the talk of the town was really those two up top at safety. So that's just the spring breakdown. I have more players added to that. Also, my bad, I forgot about my guy, number 24 for Miami Northwestern, Cam Kinchens. He had a great game. He got his first career interception in the spring game, picking off TBD. So he played very, very well. He had some really good open field tackles on a 4-year guy in Mark Pope. This young man's 19 years old. He's able to tackle him in open space. So that was really good in my eyes too. So there's your breakdown. And hopefully I went and was able to give you all that you look for, all that you need as far as spring 2021 for the Miami Hurricanes defense. Scheme-wise, we ran a 4-2-5. In some instances, we ran a little bit more of a hybrid nickel, where we brought in Amari Carter and Keontre with the 2 inside linebackers, and then we brought a nickel in. So we played a little bit more of that. We keep the 2-high system at all times at Miami. That's just how we run things, so we don't get beat over top. And There goes your coaches, your personnel, and your scheme. There you go.
Look at that. Talk about service right there, Shane. My goodness. Delivered right to your doorstep right there. Welcome to our Miami football conversation that we have each and every week with the Wholesome One. Track him over on his YouTube channel, Wholesome One Holloway, HOLSUM, the number one, Wholesome One, over on his YouTube channel. And, of course, lock it in here at the Voice of College Football. We're here talking college football every day, all the time, every day. I will have videos on tons of teams coming up this weekend. So this weekend, my goodness, Oklahoma's on the field in Texas, West Virginia, Pitt, all sorts of teams all across the country. And so I'll be tracking those on Saturday, and we'll do some live streams on Saturday with Texas and Oklahoma in mind in particular, but everybody else as well. Shop Amazon. Use the link in the description section as well. All right, Wholesome One, this is what I got for you. At the running back position, your buddy Cam Underwood from State of the U, who we're going to be talking to at 7 o'clock Eastern time tonight, is a big Donald Chaney guy. That he's the guy. When you've gone over the running back position, you've been more of the approach, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I've taken it as, and we got 3 talented backs. We need to utilize them based on what they do well and let them complement each other. And so looking at the running back position with Cam Harris, who's been the starter the last 2 years, Donald Chaney, Jalen Knighton, how would you utilize those 3 guys to their best abilities?
Okay. I don't know if I was able to let you know this, but Donald Chaney did suffer a shoulder injury in practice, so he's going to have surgery. He's out for 3 to 4 months with a shoulder injury. So coming into the first game, I think his snaps will be affected based on that a little bit. That's just my opinion. Now, we're still some ways away. Three months away from that is late July. 1 more month would be early August. So, yeah, I still think if he's just fresh out there, I think with a game like that, it'll be very limited. All right. So here's how I'm thinking. And this is if we went by the breakdown of 23 as our starter, for example. 23 is our starter. Chaney's backing him up. Knighton's on the third team. And then Thad Franklin and Brown are battling out for 4th back. Okay. So in my opinion, when you watch most games, people have anywhere from like 23 to 35 rushes. Okay, rushing attempts. Not just saying, and I mean like calling a run call is about 23 to 35, depending on what brand of ball, what type of game, weather, all these different impacts. Is the offensive line winning at the point of attack? Are we climbing? Do you actually list ace jets and stuff like that? Is that still a rush? Are we attacking the outsides? Are we running at people? There's different brands of how you use the running game, okay? Sorry, no. Y'all go ahead and hit the like button, man. We're giving great knowledge out here today. Y'all go ahead and hit the like button, okay?
And before you continue, Wholesome One, I think this is the comment of the day that's thus far, right there with Rod Farva basically saying he can feel him getting smarter just listening to you.
Thank you, man. God bless you. I appreciate that. That's a great. I love that compliment. Thank you. Do a lot of reading, do a lot of film studying. So I just like to talk, and I get a chance to do it on MarkRogersTV. So and it's about my game, so it's actually a lot of fun, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. So the way I look at it, and Mark, you know where I come from. Yes, from Miami-Dade County, but you also know where I work. So if you were to ever watch that brand of ball, you would understand why I feel the way that I do. Because we have about 6 backs with a minimum of about 3 carries a game. Okay, so that's where I got this mindset of being able to. It's more about who the hot hand is in the game. Now, I understand we watched film last year. You see Donald Chaney Jr. He gets that ball, Mark. He was fighting and ripping through people, and running people over. I get that. And that's never been my gripe. It's not about a Cam versus a Donald Chaney. It's not about Knighton versus Donald Chaney. I just think that having one guy get beat up for 20 carries and then everybody else gets 3 or 4, in my opinion, unless that guy is the dude, he's going nuts. He's getting like seven carries per, and even then you want to be able to have him hop off and bring the guy on. So let's go on a drive for you, okay? So they kick off the ball. We get it on the 25, right? First run opportunity. We get Cam up the middle for about 3 yards here. That's usually kind of how it was. It was like 2.3, 3.5 on the high end of his carries per. So Cam is out there for the first play. We pass. We get a couple yards. We run a stretch play. He gets the first down. The minute he gets that first down, I would love for, hey, Chaney, get ready. So Chaney standing next to the running back coach with his helmet on, ready to go. We get another one. We get a quick play action. Maybe let's say an RPO, for example. We get an RPO where we can hand it up the middle to Cam like we did on a previous first down, which that middle linebacker is waiting for us to do because that's what the heck we did. Okay, we would run on every freaking first down. Get an RPO. Let's say, for example, De'Aaron King pulls it. He hits the slot. Now, Cam still ran through that, so a little, not necessarily huffing and puffing, but he got a little, you see him a little up in the shoulders. Okay, cool. Get back to the line of scrimmage. Let's say we got 5 yards on that. It's 2nd and 5. We get Cam up the gut. Now Cam gets stalemated at the LOS. Chaney get in the game. Cam gets up. He trots to the sideline, gives him some water. Hey, now we're discussing things on the sideline. What's going on? Are they slamming? Where are they hitting you at? What's the conversation going on between him and the linebacker? Have you seen any blitzes? Let me know. Chaney gets in the game. We give Chaney one of those nice, beautiful plays that they magically make up for the young backs, where you got a orbit behind the QB. We get Chaney on a simple dive. He breaks for like 8. Boom. So now it's 2nd and 2. We hurry up to the line of scrimmage. Now we get Chaney right up the gut. He gets the first down. So now he's already had 2 carries. Get another one. Now he breaks for 10. So he's also running. You can see he has the hot hand, but you got to keep in mind his stamina. Okay, bomb, no problem. We get up. We're on the plus side of the 50. This is where we want to kind of change the game plan because we've been running at them. We've been RPOing them. So what I would do for my situation, I'm getting Chaney out and bringing Knighton on. So now I'm going to go 2x2 with Chaney in the backfield next to my QB. And I'm going to give him a screen. I'm going to give him a wheel route, something where we can have him in open space. Let's say, for example, 2x2. So I got my slot on a slant. I got my X on a slant, and I want him to come on a wheel. We're in man coverage, so I got a linebacker on Knighton in open space, right? So we pump the slant, get that linebacker to hesitate a little bit. We hit Chaney down the sideline for a wheel. Now, let's say he gets tackled at the 10-yard line. I'm going back to Chaney, not Cam, because I see Chaney is playing a little. He has a little bit more of that hot hand. So Knighton's like, Coach, come on, man, keep me in the game. I just got a big. Hey, listen, some method to the madness. I got you. We get Chaney right up the gut. Let's say Chaney gets us 3. So now it's 2nd and goal. Give Chaney again, and Chaney scores a touchdown. All right. Now, I just gave you 15 different carries divvied up between 3 people on an opening drive, where I use them all in different scenarios, okay, where you have some dive, you have some RPOs, you have some H-jets, you have some wheel routes where you're using people in open space. And I'm not saying that all of them have to be like Knighton's only the open space guy. Cam could do the same thing. He showed you versus Louisville. He took a wheel route to the crib, 80 yards versus Louisville. Chaney could do the exact same thing. So in my way of breaking that down, I'm just saying there's a way that you can use all of our plays in different scenarios, as opposed to on those 15 carries, we got Cam in the game because Cam started. Cam gets 10 of those carries. He's still on the field that entire drive. We get to the red zone, and now you want to substitute. I don't think that's smart. And also, Mark, Miami, we're an up-tempo team. So we're going to drain the stamina of one guy for 90% of the carries while going up tempo, and then wonder why everybody doesn't have the same burst or speed. So, like I said, I'm a very open-minded person. I love to hear other people's opinions, but that's why I feel the way that I do. Number one, I've seen it, I've played in it, we use multiple backs, and it works out well. Everybody gets to touch the ball. Everybody gets to be used. And you also got to know your personnel, Mark. If we got three balanced guys, which I say Knighton is a little bit more of the scat of everybody, but he's still balanced. Chaney can do either one. And Cam is the most balanced, where he can give you some run, he can give you some pass, he can give you some run blocking, give you some pass blocking. Mark, I've even said, let's go split back. You know, we got one who's, even though they're listed as a halfback because they're next to the QB, okay, you could motion Cam up to an H-back and have him wham block on a backside defensive end. And it's Chaney can do the same thing in so many ways. And I know, man, there's so many people who studied this game and know way more than me about running back, all right, who may even have some of everything of what I just said planted in what they would want to do, okay? But it's rumored, Mark, that we played last season with under 20% of the Rhett Lashley playbook. Rumored that under 20% was used. Rumored we only used about 17 to 18% of the playbook. That's from what I've been hearing, conversation that I had. Dude, I mean, it's COVID, it's Zoom. And we saw so many wrinkles with N'Kosi Perry in the game versus Oak State. Stuff that I hadn't even seen us call. Okay, so, Matt, listen. Opinions are great. People have great. Cam has a really good, and I'm talking about Cam Underwood. Cam has his view as the way that he wants the running back team to go because he sees Don Chaney out there balling. It's not my place to tell that man he's wrong for how he feels, but in my opinion, I think there's different ways that we can use our backs to keep everybody healthy, keep everybody fresh, and using our players, man. That's just it. That's how I look at it.
Really good stuff from the Wholesome One here, talking Miami football with all of you. Leave your comments, your questions, your debate topics there in the live chat. Otherwise, I will keep firing away myself. And we're back here at 7 o'clock Eastern time with Cam Underwood from State of the U. And lest I forget, I've added a Clemson live stream at 8. So we'll be here at 8 o'clock Eastern time as well, talking Clemson football.
With, give me a little bit of tidbits. What's going on with the program?
Our guy, Brian Knight. All right.
Can you get Brian Knight on the screen with your boy? I want to talk to him.
We're going to bring him on here.
How about we make the ACC championship game and then we'll line up that live together.
Oh, that'd be sweet. Get everybody on here. Absolutely. We had people last night that were clamoring on the live chat for a combined Miami, Florida State live stream. So you let me know if you're interested there.
No.
Okay. All right. Let's get to my wide receiver question because it's similar to the running back question where you have different skill sets, different sizes, different speeds, but even more so at wide receiver because there's usually 3 or 4 on the field at the same time, especially with the way offenses are run today. It's not 2 wide receivers and a tight end and a fullback like it used to be, but 3 to 4 wide receivers, sometimes 5, where, sure, when you're recruiting, you're thinking, I think as fans and media, at least, not necessarily coaches and scouts, thinking you just want the fastest guys, you want the biggest guys, whatever. But if you want a true complement of receivers that work well together in their different spots on the field within the passing game, then you've got different strengths out there. You've got big-bodied guys who aren't necessarily the fastest, but they can box guys out. You've got burners. You've got your just polished route runners who have tremendous hands. You've got your Hunter Renfros. There's not a whole lot of those guys, but Julian Edelman, you know, your list of guys that's going to get you a 3rd and 3 anytime you want it. That's just like a jitterbug, so quick that nobody can hang with them in a short space. Do you see that out of this complement of wide receivers where you can see how they would benefit and complement each other that way?
Yes. And I believe for the first time, due to now those youngsters being able, because Mark, look at it. So we took 2 recruiting classes ago. We took 4, right? Then this previous recruiting class, we took 3. This upcoming recruiting class, we want to take another 4. All right. So that means that we understand, our coaches have already been open with, we want to have at home games 8 wide receivers. We want to be 4 2 deep, so 8 total of wide receivers qualified to be on our field, know our playbook, and can make plays. Okay. So we want to be 8 deep, home games, 6 deep away because everybody can't travel, right? Here's the thing. As somebody as yourself who's watched so much ball, if I take you back even 5 years, the thought of it is you always need a number 1. Always. Okay. You look at Ohio State this year, Mark, they got like 5 number 1s.
Yeah, they're stacked.
Their wide receiver core is probably the highest rated core group in America. Okay. All right. Let's look at Alabama the last couple of seasons, guys. Look at Alabama. The last time Coach Saban had just one guy at wide receiver, no national championship game. I take you back to when Redley was the guy at Alabama. They lost to Ohio State in the playoff game. Then the conversation had, why have one good guy and everybody else just be situational guys when I can go out and recruit 2 or 3 or 4 big-time guys? And one's going to leave early because he got 1 or 2 may leave early because they got majority of the receptions. But then even when they go, I'll still have 2 more elite guys who can step into their place. All right. Now, from a defensive perspective, if there's one guy who I have to worry about as a receiving threat who can take over a game, I'm going to double him. I'm going to give him over top coverage. I'm going to give him man coverage. And heck, if I'm running a 2 zone, I'm going to give them even underneath help with linebacker help, right? But then if I have to worry about Smith, if I got to worry about Waddle, if I got to worry about Judy, then I also got to worry about what's the guy who's taken over this year for Alabama. It's a youngster.
Billingsley?
Yeah. Got 4. What do I do? I got to just line up and call my calls and see what freaking happens. At this point, line up and play the ball. That's all I can do. But what I'm saying here is, you look at Miami, right? And Heisman Howell. I appreciate you, Luke Walker. I appreciate you, Luke Walker. Can we get a Canes comment up there, please, Mark?
We bring the fan bases from all across the map.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, I like to give representation across the board.
I bet you do. Luke Walker, that dude, he's respectful, but he's hilarious. Anyhow, all right. That's the one thing. Hey, I can't complain, man. I asked, and you gave me what I asked for, so I will continue with my response. All right. Jesus Christ.
That's your guy.
Look at Miami, and you got guys like Michael Redding. So Michael Redding would be a young man who I would go to on a 3rd down because he's really good at contested catches, a fade route. Number 83, Michael Redding. That was his thing. When he was at IMG Academy, he was the guy that would throw deep fades too. They would be in the red zone and throw a short fade too. They would throw slants. He has those secure hands and a big body where you have to try to get around him to attack the ball and really secure hands. All right. You talk about a guy like Mark Pope. Mark Pope can beat you. He's a situational guy. It was our fault for going to a Mark Pope and a D Wiggins to be true number one and number twos. They were never those type of guys. They are situational gimmick players. Kadarius Toney wasn't the number one for Florida. He was a guy that you put in the game. You let him eat people up, linebackers, safeties, and nickels in the slot. He isn't your X. You don't put him at pure wide and expect him to win games. That's not how it's done. Now, eventually, you do have to understand that you have to take advantage of what's on your roster. If Mark Pope and D Wiggs are the second best on your roster, then that's a problem. And that's why we adjusted that problem with bringing in 7 wide receivers in the last 2 recruiting classes and bringing in another 4 this upcoming recruiting class. All right. Go to D Wiggs. He's good on deep bombs and posts. That's it. Go to Xavier Restrepo. He's eating up the middle. Great route running. He attacks the football. He's also a secure hands across the middle type of guy. Also, you can get him on ace checks. You can get him on punt kick return. All right. Go down to Dazzler Morsham. A young man, we're still trying to see where he is, but physique-wise, body route running-wise, he's more of a D Wiggs because he can get missing, but he can actually catch the ball. But I would put him in that situation where you got your deep post, you got your bombs, but you can add slants to what he brings to the table. You have in Jacoby George, right? 6'2", 6'3", 195-pound guy. He is more of your X. He's not a situational guy. He can go out there and do almost anything you ask to at a high level. Very similar to him, Romello Brinson can do anything you ask for at a high level. You want him to go across the middle? Okay, coach. You want him to go deep down the sideline? Okay, coach. You want him to run a deep post? Okay, anything you need, those 2 young men can do. All right, so that's kind of a breakdown as to our wide receivers, where I see that they do well, how we use them situationally, how we can rotate them based on down and distance, who the QB most likely will be targeting when they do touch the football field based on down and distance and situational ball, because that's how modern football is. It's situational. No longer do you just line up, run play action, and just throw a bomb to whoever's going deep. The game has become too intricate to do stuff like that anymore. You got to know what's going on.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Each and every week, we're here on Thursday with a wholesome one, typically at 5 o'clock Eastern time. This worked out better for everyone involved. So 4 o'clock this time. We'll be back with Cam Underwood from State of the U at 7. Wholesome one. Anything else?
You had one more question for me, didn't you?
Oh, and we also have a super chat just came in. Let's see what we got from our guy, the Daryl Harris. Appreciate that, to Daryl. Thank you so much for the super chat contribution there. I'm a South Alabama Canes since '89. Somebody give this kid a job. And I attended games. Nice.
I would, Mark. Listen, you think I'm emotional now, man? I would vehemently bow gracefully on the channel, step away, do one last live with you, and then end with "I got the job in Miami." I would tears, man, tears.
That would be phenomenal.
Down, man, and I tell you what. If and when I ever have a Miami press conference, I will give you everything that T. Will gave you, but I won't up and leave for UCF to be a co-DC. So that's it.
Sure, absolutely. It's about building the career and taking that next step.
Yep, absolutely.
This question came to me for the wholesome one because you guys know what the deal is with me. If you watch any of the other stuff that I do, I'm trying to cover college football. So I watch as much as I possibly can. I'm sitting here watching from noon on Saturday till the last Pac-12 games off the air at 2:30 in the morning. So I watch as much as I possibly can. But you know what the deal is in college football. There's 130 teams. There's like 60 some games going on. You can only watch like 6 or 7 during the day. and I'm trying to watch 3 or 4 at a time. And that's not always the best way to do it because you're like, I missed that. I really can't lock in. So anyway, I'll try to catch some on Sunday and Monday in condensed form. So if I want to catch the North Carolina State Boston College game that I missed, and I see that it was a 42-14 game and it was 28-0 after the first quarter, I'm not watching a 42-14 game. I'll watch the slice that matters. Or if that thing went down to the wire 28-27 and it was a really good game going into the fourth quarter and I can't watch it all, I'll just watch the fourth quarter. That's when the game was decided, all the big plays, and that's what mattered. So for anybody, including myself, if I'm going to go back and look at Miami's season and rewatch last year's, are there key, and you can take this in a number of ways, key moments, key situations, key parts of games, positions. Obviously, if there's a position unit where all those players are gone, well, that's less meaningful to rewatch that than if all the players are back at that particular position unit. Just spots that you think were meaningful from last season in regards to getting a really good gauge on just kind of learning a little bit more about this football team and what to kind of project towards 2021. Because we still have, it's mid to late April. We still have a good 4 months to rewatch football games from last year.
I would say there's a couple games, okay? When you watch the first quarter of a lot of games, defensively, we looked horrid. Excluding UNC where the whole game was pitiful. I think they had a scoring drive. 11 of their 12 resulted in a score. It's just ungodly how bad that was. But the first quarter defense was it. Mark, it honestly looked like the team that we were watching didn't watch film. Like they didn't have, like there was no game plan. It was just like, hey, line up, play ball, we them boys. And then they go to the second half, they make all these adjustments, and then the people can't move the ball. If you want to see good, watch third and fourth quarter Miami Hurricanes defense. If just to be honest with you, if you want to see subpar to horrible, watch first quarter Miami Hurricanes defense across the entire season. It's so simple. If you want to see pretty good Miami Hurricanes offense, watch second and third quarters because they would fall asleep in the fourth. If you want to watch horrible miscommunication, watch NC State. As much as people talk about how they love that game and De'Aaron King went off, he should not have had to go off with that mediocre offense just going up and down the field on Miami. All right. Third quarters, when I say second half, I would say fast forward about 5 minutes into the third and watch from there on. Because second half defense, to start that drive, this subpar Tallahassee team, which we were stumping, drives straight down the field and scores a touchdown on us. Now, that defensive coordinator is just a linebackers coach at LSU. That secondary coach, the safeties coach, is now a D1.5 DC at Utah State. That cornerbacks coach now just recruits. So that should tell you something as to what we were dealing with there. Okay. But it's sad, Mark. Man, you watch these games and you're wondering what is happening. In a system that is so intricate on coaching, is college ball. Until you get to a point where your program runs on its own, you got these 5-star players that come in and out of the program, and then your players kind of facilitate, police, and coach themselves, and you have a true program. All right, and you kind of could not necessarily sit back and not do anything, but every little thing you say isn't as impactful. But during the building process, during the blueprint process of a home, everything that you do is important, because everything you build on top of this foundation can all come crumbling down if it's not done right. Which is why we blew it up and got those dudes out of here. All right, because it just wasn't working at a high level. It wasn't. And Mark, I remember coming on here. I remember being on my channel and just explaining since 2018 that this defense, man, it's not just because of the statistics. Numbers can lie to you. There's context to what you're watching, so to what you're reading on this sheet when you look at a stat sheet. You know, I remember coming on in 2019 and we're the number 19 ranked defense in the country with losses to Duke and FIU in multiple 500-yard games. And even this past season, Mark, of the 13 games we played last year, right?
11.
11 games we played last year. We gave up 500-plus yards 7 times. By no means is that good. And that's with a first-round defensive end, a third, fourth-round defensive end on the other side, and a future top 50 pick in Bubba Bolden at free safety, and maybe a draftable DJ Ivy at corner. So if you want to watch this season, you're going to see a lot, man. You're going to see. I want to rewatch 2020. Couple of games. Vatek. Man, listen. Virginia. You win by 1 point, and we dancing and twerking on the sideline. Good God. Now, in each game, Mark, it's so weird, because in each game, if you're looking for one thing, you're gonna be satisfied. If you watch UAB and you're looking for Cam Harris to do well, you're gonna like the UAB game. If you watch Louisville and you're looking for Jalen Knight and Donald Chain, the running game to do well, you're gonna like what you're watching. But if you watch any of those games to see good defense, you're gonna be mad. You watch the Clemson game because you want to see a team that's ranked high and able to give Clemson a game in conference and fighting hard. You're going to be adamantly disappointed in the product that you're watching, because we looked outclassed, we looked outcoached, and they toyed with us. Mark, they were calling plays like it was a spring game. Schoolboy right, schoolboy left, play action. Screen right, screen left, bomb. Basic stuff. They beat us with a basic program. So it's just, you got to know that the program moving forward, when you see a couple players that won't be on the team anymore, just keep telling yourself this. The guy that called that defense is just a position coach. The reason why our safeties and corners were out of position and bad tackling, looking bad, he's at a school that is more irrelevant than any. Oh, Lord Jesus. And he's at DC. Okay. You look at our corners and they don't attack the ball. They just look lost. Know that guy is on a computer looking at star ratings and watching film all day long. That should tell you all you need to know as you keep watching last season, and know that all those guys were replaced by people way more qualified to be here. Just that simple.
Saw a comment in here about the Pitt game. Brings to mind that Miami would be seeing Kenny Pickett for a 5th time, but he was hurt before that game, and saw their second and third string quarterbacks in that one, and that was one of the more decided wins, even though it wasn't a blowout by any stretch, but it was pretty comfortable.
I mean, Mark, we actually went on like a 3-game stretch where we played everybody's backup. NC State, that was their backup. Pitt, that was their backup. Now I think either UVA or Tech, their backup, but maybe even both.
Virginia, yeah.
Virginia, yeah.
They were beat up and didn't really have anyone. Virginia was funny because they were playing at 1.3 quarterbacks, and all of them had none of them had quarterback numbers. One of them was 36, one was 90 something, and the other was like 90, 98, 36, and none of them were very good. But all right, Wholesome One, we always appreciate it. Always appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by. Check out his channel, of course, the Wholesome One. You should all know that by now, but hopefully we're getting some different people here in the live chat. So again, it's the Wholesome One right here on YouTube. And thank you so much, Kingdom Consciousness. Thank you so much for the Super Chat contribution. And again, big props to the Wholesome One. Give that man a damn job.
One day, man. One day. And I'll cry at the presser, but that's okay.
I'd love to see it. I would love to see it. And it would be well-deserved. All right, man. Thank you so much. And again, everybody else, we'll be back here at 7 and at 8 with Miami and Clemson talk coming up here live. All right, Wholesome One, we'll see you.
Go Canes, baby. Have a good one.